everyone. Gavin Reub here, Artistic Director of the Seagull project. Over the past couple of months, we've had the opportunity to work with a really incredible nonprofit called Mary's Place. For folks who are unfamiliar with Mary's Place, we just had a fantastic interview with Katrina Scarlett, which you can find here shortly. In August at Cafe Nordo, we had an event where we were partnering with Mary's Place, our Great Souls event, and we curated a series of stories around themes that are oriented around Mary's Place's mission. But we knew that that shouldn't be the end of our conversation and our representation of Mary's Place, as well as our partnership that will hopefully last for years and years, because we love working with them and believe in the work they do so much. So we invited Katrina to come here to University Heights, where we are currently workshopping the lower depths, in order to talk to us a little bit more about what Mary's Place does, what it's continuing to strive forward to do, and how we can all help to move its mission forward and to make Seattle a more equitable place.
My name is Katrina Scarlett. I use she, her pronouns, and I work with Mary's Place on our development team as the donor relations and stewardship manager. Generally, Mary's Place exists to really envision a community where every family has access to safety, stability, and housing, and to ensure that no child is sleeping outside. So right now we're taking kind of a three-pronged approach. So we have our shelter services, our prevention program, and our mobile outreach teams. Probably most known for is providing immediate shelter and services for families who are experiencing homelessness or on the verge of homelessness, in order for them to be able to come inside, receive that safety, that security, get their basic needs met, and then work on moving back into housing tomorrow. We have an incredible outreach team of mobile specialists who work throughout all of King County, which I don't know if everyone is aware of, that we are the third largest county in the country. So our specialists go out to every single city throughout the county to meet families where they are, whether they're living in tents, in encampments, in sleeping in a car in the end of a cul-de-sac trying to hide and be more invisible. Whatever that might look like, our specialists are out there to figure out what those families need, what their unique barriers are, and what the unique solution might be to get them quickly moved back into housing and bypass shelter. This not only helps to quickly move families back into housing, but it also keeps shelter space open for some families who may have higher barriers and need to come inside to shelter to be able to regain stability. And our third-pronged approach, which is more new, which really has started from the evolving need that we saw due to the effects of COVID, and that is work in the preventative area. And that is where we were seeing that our shelters were at capacity, as they still are. We're still not meeting the need. We know the need is going to increase, especially right now as all of the eviction moratoriums have ended. Thousands of families across King County are at risk of losing their homes, and we know it's not enough to be there when they need it to come into shelter. We want to work upstream and help them to not lose their homes when we can, because the best and safest place for a family to be is in their own home, right? And so really working to scale up that approach to keep families housed, and it's also much more cost effective, we know as well, for a family to stay housed than it is for them to fall into homelessness, to lose their possessions, to need shelter and resources, to endure that trauma, and then move back into housing. So really, when we look at what our mission means, is that we are first looking to understand who is affected by homelessness the most, and that it is really disproportionate. Not everyone is at the same risk of becoming homeless, of experiencing homelessness, and we know this is in large part due to structural and systemic racism that is pervasive throughout not only the city, not only the county, not only the state, but the country. And so as locally, we are really focused on looking at this history and looking at these causes in order to address it and to dismantle these systems of inequities. And some of that includes historical practices of redlining in communities, gentrification, a sustained gap in just the generational wealth that is accumulated, increased costs of rent, the lack of affordable housing, healthcare inequities, as well as underemployment or unemployment within communities of color and for women, specifically when we look at the pay gaps. So we know that in order to solve this crisis, we have to first understand and address these systemic inequities and center equity as a huge part of our mission in order to provide access to economic opportunity that can be so limited and have such increased barriers for communities of color. And lastly, thinking about that center of equity and opportunity is really to understand who's making those decisions and elevating the voices of our guests to ensure that our guests are able to provide their experience, their perspective, and their knowledge for us to continue this work. We have incredible staff who have lived experience, who are also able to add to this work to ensure that any type of strategic plan that we're trying to incorporate, any type of approach we have, has these unique but incredibly important perspectives to help drive that work. People think about homelessness, which I think is often, especially in Seattle, because it is a very visible crisis. It is something that I think is on a lot of people's minds. There's a lot of different opinions and thoughts about what are the causes of homelessness, how do we solve this? But we know from what we look at is there are a lot of different risks that might make someone more vulnerable to experience homelessness. But the number one cause of homelessness is the sheer lack of affordable housing. You might think that poverty and homelessness might go more hand in hand, that poverty is potentially a driver and a cause of homelessness, but really what we see is it is the opposite. It's affluence, because the more affluent a city might get, the housing market is going to increase, right? It's going to skyrocket. The demand for wanting to live in that city is going to skyrocket. Rent prices are going to go up. And what it's going to do is it's going to push people out of the neighborhoods they have lived in for so long, and it's going to become potentially impossible and, if at a minimum, overwhelming to come back and to find areas to stay. Mary's Place is here because of the incredible and continued support of our community. Number one way, which might not be a surprise, is of course funding. So being able to support with donations is incredible. I think I may have mentioned before that the vast majority of our operations and funds come from private entities, come from individuals, come from corporations, and so any amount that someone is able to give is truly impactful for the work that we're able to do. We have lots of other ways to be involved as well, whether it's volunteering, if someone as an individual or as a group, whether it's you, your family, your work group, want to come and work actually in a shelter and provide meal service, or help throw a birthday party for kids in shelter. We have a lot of different opportunities there, opportunities to do things remotely, like building kits that we might need in shelter, or for families who are recently housed, we have welcome home baskets that have some goodies that we're able to give to families when they first move home. Cold care kits, so if a family is sick in shelter, we can have little, again, goodie bags to be able to provide to them. We also have a wonderful program, it's called Make a Home, which is kind of exactly how it sounds, which is really just connecting different community groups to families who are moving out of shelter into housing and helping set that house up like a home. Because when families fall into homelessness, they are most likely losing almost all of their possessions. And as incredible and wonderful as it is to move into a new house, if it's empty, it's really not going to feel like home, and that is expensive to have to restock and get the bed again, get a dresser, kitchen table, chairs, all of those things. So the Make a Home program is a great way for people to get together, collect these items, and actually go and set this home up for this family. And sometimes that might be a little too much. Making a home can be big, so Make a Room is another option as well. So other really fun ways to kind of get involved. And I'll also mention too that as we are coming up on a holiday season, we always like to have we have a holiday giving program in which we aim to provide gift cards to families, teens and parents specifically in shelter, so that they can do their own shopping for each other, as well as collecting new toys for kids who are 10 and under. So that's a great way to get involved too, to help ensure that our families can enjoy the holidays together. And lastly, and probably more importantly, I like to always share that the biggest way to support is really to spread awareness, right? To be able to educate yourself, to educate everyone about the causes and complexities of family homelessness and the solutions that we do believe can work, and advocate. working with people that can make those decisions at the systemic level to ensure that families do have access to opportunity, that families do all have access to safety and stability in housing.